Arcanum 7, the Conqueror. Arcanum 7 pictures a man standing in a cube-shaped chariot drawn by two sphinxes, one black, one white. A winged globe adorns the front of the car. 4 columns support a canopy, which is decorated with 14 stars. In his right hand, the man holds a sword, and in his left, a scepter surmounted by a square, a circle, and a triangle. He wears a cuirass on the front of which the letter T arises to meet the obstacles of 2 trine squares. On his head is a coronet surmounted by 3 golden pentagrams. Symbolism and philosophy. At this stage of his journey, the prodigal earns a well-deserved rest, corresponding to the Sabbath after his days of labor. His rest, however, is but a temporary one, for this card indicates victory, but only a partial victory, on just the first of the 3 planes, the physical. A brief review of the ground covered by the first 6 arcana will help us focus more sharply the overcoming story of Arcanum 7. Arcanum 1 pictures the human spirit after he has said, "I will arise and return unto my Father." Here we raise our magic wand toward the realm of light, seeking guidance on the upward path, consigning our self-will to the oblivion of forgetfulness. At Arcanum 2, we pass through the mystic pillars of Jachin and Boaz, between which sits Mother Nature, the secrets of whose book of life we must learn to read. Here our divine soul conceives the child of God consciousness. At Arcanum 3, we see the picture of our own divine soul as she travails in the wilderness of the subconscious mind, laboring to bring forth the man-child who will rule the nations with a rod of iron. Arcanum 4 pictures the birth of that child in the manger of our own heart. The child is called a prince because his father is the king of heaven. Like the figure in Arcanum 1, that of Arcanum 4 raises his magic wand upward for light, while consigning his self-will to the oblivion of forgetfulness. Arcanum 5 teaches us that to grow in spirit and truth, we must rely upon the Hierophant of the mysteries, the great high priest, without whose constant help we can do nothing of lasting value. Arcanum 6 brings us to the crossroads of life, where we must choose between good and evil, God and self, the divine soul and the animal soul. Here we learn the difference between sensuality and spirituality, and how to apply this yardstick to every experience of life. The decisions we make at this station give us a measure of victory over self, outwardly, but we must yet conquer 2 more planes, the emotional and spiritual. The key to understanding the partial victory pictured in Arcanum 7 lies in the word Sabbath. In both the Hebrew and Greek, it means to rest. Not the kind of rest to which Christendom devotes itself one day in 7, nor even that envisioned by those who someday expect to go to heaven and play on a harp forever and ever. The rest spoken of by this Arcanum is that sense of inward peace, that relaxing of emotional tension which follows victory over the temptation to gratify our own desires at any expense, even God's. The conqueror no longer has to be on guard day and night, lest his rebellious impulses get the upper hand and people see him for what he is. He is conscious that there is now a spirit working within him to control those impulses. Before this point, they drove him. Now they carry him. For the first time in his life, he has harnessed physical energies to the will of the spirit. Therefore, he is shown as riding in the chariot or car, an emblem of his fourfold human nature born of the realm of time. The 2 sphinxes representing his animal drives lie in an attitude of rest. As symbols of good and evil, they typify the peace of mind that victory gives him. The winged globe on the front of the chariot speaks of his spirit flying to the higher regions of thought to which he now aspires. On his breast he wears the cuirass, or breastplate, inscribed with the tall cross, emblem of Arcanum 022, whose key words are failure, folly, and mistake. It is shown over the solar plexus, or subconscious mind, rising up to the chest, or conscious mind, where it meets two trine squares, representing love and wisdom. In his right hand the Conqueror holds the sword of the Spirit, with which he will hew his way to farther victories on the emotional and spiritual planes. In his left hand he holds the magic wand, surmounted with a square, a circle, and a triangle, emblems of the body, spirit, and mind. The power he receives from God's Spirit will be used to eliminate his mind and control his actions on the outward or physical plane. The coronet on his head, adorned with 3 golden pentagrams, further symbolizes the star of God's promise flooding his consciousness. It emphasizes the fact that faith must win the victory on 3 planes, not 1. The 4 pillars on the chariot represent hope, faith, perseverance, and love that sustain the new temple of the regenerated man. The power of regeneration descends from above, symbolized by the 14 stars on the canopy above the Conqueror's head. This stresses the message of Arcanum 5. We can win victories only by relying on the strong arm of the Lord. Astrology. Arcanum 7 corresponds to the sign Sagittarius, ruled by the planet Jupiter. It indicates religion and law, the higher mind, long journeys, philosophy. Human anatomy. Arcanum 7 indicates the psychomotor system of nerves, more specifically the sciatic and crural nerve supplies, the function of movement, the musculature of the thighs, the femurs, and the femoral marrow. Masonic ritual. Arcanum 7 typifies the Royal Arch degree, symbolizing the completion of manhood. It features the winding of the rope or cable tow 7 times around the body of each candidate, of whom at least 3 must be present in the lodge. This teaches that Arcanum 7 marks only one of the 3 great victories that must be won before the royal arch of man's reconciliation with his Father is complete. Soul and spirit, will and desire, typified by the pillars of Jachin and Boaz, must become united by the keystone of the living Christ before they can become a true arch in the mystic temple of his Spirit. The Bible. 7 is without doubt the most important number in the Bible. It would take pages just to list the times it appears. We give here but a few to show its great significance. 7 spirits before the throne of God, 7 Elohim, 7 golden candlesticks, 7 churches of Asia Minor, 7 vials, 7 plagues, 7 trumpets, 7 thunders, 7 seals, 7 stars, 7 heads on the beast, 6 days of labor, the 7th a day of rest, 7 fat and 7 lean kine, 7 fat and 7 lean ears of corn in the Pharaoh's dream, 7 days of unleavened bread, 7 Sabbaths, followed by the great Jubilee, 7 priests blowing 7 trumpets for 7 days, and on the last day encompassing Jericho 7 times before it fell, 7 statements of Jesus on the cross. The number 7 in the Bible reflects its importance in life itself. For instance, 7 notes in the scale, 7 colors of the spectrum, 7 days for the changes of the moon, septenary law of science. Even the physical body symbolizes the number 7. 7 natural divisions: head, thorax, abdomen, 2 arms and 2 legs, 7 parts to the human embryo, 7 great tissue systems, 7 kinds of connective tissue, 7 main bodily functions: respiration, circulation, assimilation, excretion, reproduction, sensation, reaction, 7 organs essential to life: brain, heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, spleen, pancreas, 7 layers to the skin, 7 divisions to the eye, 7 divisions of the ear, 7 compartments to the heart, 7 divisions of the brain. In mythology, we have the 7-string lyre of Apollo, type of sevenfold man, the 7 Pleiades, and Chiron, the centaur, or the sign Sagittarius, picturing the threefold spirit of man rising out of his fourfold human nature. Genesis chapter 39 verses 7 through 13 dramatizes the story of Arcanum 7 in recounting the victory that Joseph wins over Potiphar's wife, representing the sensuous temptations of human desire we found pictured in Arcanum 6. As a result of this victory, and also because he successfully interpreted Pharaoh's dreams, Genesis chapter 41 verses 42 and 43 tell us that Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. And he made him to ride in the second chariot which he had, and he made him ruler over all the land of Egypt. 2 Kings chapter 2 verse 11 tells the same story in another way, of Elijah being caught up by a whirlwind and taken to heaven in a chariot of fire. It is significant that the sign Sagittarius corresponding to Arcanum 7 is a fire sign. It's just another way of saying that the Heavenly Father kindles his purifying fire in man's sevenfold nature, which consumes all dross. Revelations chapter 6 verses 1 and 2 and chapter 19 verses 11 through 14 speak of the white horse, the sign Sagittarius again, picturing the animal host of the human spirit cleansed by the power of God's love. In Ephesians chapter 6 verses 13 through 17, the Apostle Paul gives a very clear description of the essential message of Arcanum 7 when he says, "Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having overcome all margin to stand. Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of your righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. And take the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God." There is a remarkable parallel between the message of the first 7 arcana and the life of Jesus, which life in turn serves as a type of the experience of every prodigal. If we take Arcanum 1 to represent Jesus as the Son of God and follow the correspondence through, we find that Arcanum 2 represents his conception in the womb of time, or Mother Nature. Arcanum 3, his gestation period. Arcanum 4, his birth on earth. Arcanum 5, his growth to manhood and initiation as our great high priest. Arcanum 6, his temptation in the wilderness. Arcanum 7, his final and complete victory over death. If we take Arcanum 1 to represent our own prodigal spirit, we find that we too followed the same path as Jesus when we walked the royal road to the New Jerusalem. This, to our mind, is the greatest value that comes from studying the life of Jesus. Seldom do we hear his life presented to us as a type of our own experience. To study his life only as an example for us to follow gives us but half its force. To recognize him as a prototype of ourselves as we journey along the royal road from darkness to light makes him the most compelling figure of history, the world's and our own. As we conclude the message of Arcanum 7, let us keep ever firmly in mind that it is not knowledge alone we need as we travel, but power. Power that comes from him who conquered death. To everyone who asks, he freely gives. Aphorism. Remember then, son of earth, that the universe is under the sovereignty of spirit. You, as an apostate from the kingdom of light, can share in that sovereignty only by returning to the light. Keywords and correspondences. Arcanum 7. Reference page 84 in the Royal Road.